that the same people who are promoting the caste quotas in the corporate world have also come to World Bank and given a 6-part workshop on caste bias in India to the World Bank in Washington. And the idea being that when World Bank gives loans to India, they should look for whether the project has got enough Dalits and Muslims or not, whether it is too many upper caste. So now World Bank is going to start putting the danda and saying, okay, you know, we'll only fund if this project has enough social diversity according to them. I propose that our idea of environmentalism says that the earth is sacred and the rivers are sacred. Nature is sacred. So we would give a negative rating for somebody like a McDonald's because they're slaughtering billions of animals every year. That would be a problem for us. It would be according to our ethics. But according to their ethics, the criteria is very different. The criteria for deciding who has high rating, who has low rating is decided by them.
And 2 sessions we are going to have with Rajiv ji. They are landmark days in the whole journey of Chanakya Mandal for 27 years. If I am to pick up defining dates, then that day when we started Chanakya Mandal after I resigned from IS, August 10, 1996. That day our first Vastu was dedicated to India at the hands of none other than Dadaji, that is Pandurang Shastri Athavale, October 5, 1998. That day, this Vastu was again dedicated to the nation at the hands of Dalai Lama on December 31, 2014. In terms of describing Chanakya Mandal's journey, I am describing March 8, 2023 in that league. A landmark day in the journey of Chanakya Mandal in light of what we want to do.
Namaskar. And Avinashi, this is such an amazing and warm welcome from the heart. I can tell that we are fellow travelers, fellow warriors, fond of the same civilization and giving back in our own way. So for me, it's also a landmark because I will tell you, I travel a lot and rarely come across this sort of opportunity that I have today. Just to give you an idea, I'm here on a 32, 33-day trip of India, 5 cities, 28 events. But this is probably the most interesting one for me, from the way I'm facing all of you and Avinashi and his vision and his life's journey. I go talk to all sorts of, young people, media people, government people here, there. But I feel that the attentiveness of this audience, which I can see, and the interest with which you want to understand the issues of the day, the issues that will affect your life. It's not our life. We're okay for our life. Your life is being affected by the kind of topics we're going to talk about. So this is very special for me. And I'm in the first half of my adult life, I was a technocrat, making money, businessman in IT, technology, computer science, AI, those kind of things in many countries. And in the second half, when I'm giving back, that too can be divided into, as he said, a philanthropy is just giving money and then becoming an intellectual and scholar. And as scholar, producing all kind of things, now I'm entering another stage. I'm 72. So my stage is that I have to, first of all, finish the work that I've already started. I have 20 more volumes to finish because I finished the research, finished the first draft. I have to now get those books out. But more important, as important as that, I would say, is to train the next generation. So we are also training young people to continue this work because it's a 100-year war. This civilizational problem that we've inherited due to colonialism is 1200 years old at least, because it was the Islamic invasion. Colonialism didn't start with the British, it started 1000 years before, and then the Europeans. And in some ways, thank you Ji, in some ways the colonialism has been taken over by Indians only. We are, our own Indian people have become colonized and continuing everything, whether it's NCRT or UPSC exam or government and policies and so on, they continue that. Including the English language, to be honest with you, which we are trained in. So, reversing all this, recovering our civilization, not with the intention of going back, but going forward. We have to understand the past in order to go into the future. That is the important thing. So to do this is a long journey. It's a 100-year battle. And so at this stage in my life, I have to finish my work. That's one. Second, I have to leave a home team of scholars who can continue this. And those of people here who are interested, we will work together and create some kind of vehicle. And third is I have to find some kind of institutional mechanism here in India. I started my foundation in US because I happened to be there. And then I started investing more and more in India. We now have a team of about 15 people or so. And we want to grow that so that the entire activity becomes India-based. That's how it has to be. Now, what I would like for this session is to give you a little bit of overview instead of so many books, because they're all different topics. I will give you an overview from this latest Snakes in the Ganga, because that's brand new. And then we'll invite a Q&A. That will be exciting. Snakes in the Ganga talks about forces that are threatening India, not just from overseas and not just from India, but kind of global forces aligned with each other. It's difficult to say whether it's the Indians going there getting help to undermine India, because there are a lot of such Indians, or whether it is those people coming here imposing themselves, because it's actually both. Now, I will first talk about the philosophical ideology that this threat is based on, which is a form of Marxism. And many of you have studied social sciences and Marxism, so you'll relate to this. And then I'll talk about the institutional mechanism set up in places like Harvard, what they're doing. And then I'll talk about how that is being brought into India, often with the help of the government also. They are inviting these people and consultants and whatever who are bringing these things. So since time is limited, I want to do this very quickly and then have a lot of time for Q&A. So the philosophical bedrock of Marxism started with Marx coming up with this idea that every society has oppressors and oppressed. Society can be divided. Social structure consists of people who are oppressing and those who are being oppressed. But this was economic. It was not religious and it was not racial. It was not ethnic. He was very clear, economic. Then 100 years later or so, there came the second wave called the Frankfurt School. Many of you know about it, where it is called cultural Marxism. They came up with the idea that Marxism, that the haves and have-nots need not be economic only. Cultural production, those who control education, theater, cinema, parades, all the fashions, all the culture, that's also a means of production. It's not only economic means of production that the elites control, but also cultural means of production, and the public are the consumers. So cultural products made by the elites who own the means of production and consumed by the public is also a form of exploitation, because what happens is the consumers begin to feel very good about life because of the culture and they forget about the economic oppression. I am poor, but हमारे देश के बारे में क्या कहा जा रहा है, हमारी जाति के बारे में क्या कहा जा रहा है, my forefathers are being praised And we are having a lot of jalous and bandwagon and a lot of, big melas and tamasha. And so I'm feeling very happy. Hum cricket match jeet rahe hain. All that is a way to culturally mesmerize me and make me happy, so that I don't revolt against the economic oppression. This is that. Now, what you people may not know is the Americanization of Marxism. This will come as a surprise to you because you think America is the last place they'll get a Marxist, become Marxist. But the Americanization of Marxism happened in the 50s and 60s. Herbert Marcuse, who came from Europe, to a well-known Marxist, young man, came to Berkeley, and then some of the others came to Columbia, and they started applying Marxism to race. Because now for the first time, it was whites are the oppressors, blacks are the oppressed. And that is true. That has been. So the structures of white supremacy should be dismantled in a Marxist sense. And the means of production of whiteness are these structures. So they have to be dismantled. That was how it was. So actually, this logic stayed in the academic world. It did not become mainstream. And then somebody in Harvard Law School created critical legal theory, where he said that the legal system is biased, and he applied the same Marxist principles. And then this was expanded into critical race theory, which became a very big thing now. Now, I have supported critical race theory because I support the oppressed in America. They are racially oppressed people, and that is okay. But the problem comes, two problems. One is that the proponents of critical race theory, commonly in the popular parlance called Wokeism, they are against free speech. They are doing cancel culture. So I'm cancelled because when I disagree with them, I'm cancelled. Cancel means आपकी बात नहीं मानेंगे, आपको चुप कर बैठना पड़ेगा. So this is against free speech in the true sense. Their logic is that your oppressor, you can't speak, because if the oppressor speaks, then the oppressed people will not be able to overturn your discourse. The grand narrative belongs to the oppressor. All grand narratives belong to the oppressor. We have to counter it with our counter narrative, and we have to keep you quiet. So that is one problem that they have. Another problem they have that I consider problem is, instead of equality, which was the hallmark of liberalism in America, John F. Kennedy, liberal, President Carter, liberal, then even Martin Luther King, liberal, and Barack Obama, all these liberal people believe in equality. So you give equal opportunities, and some people will do well, some people will not do well, but you cannot force success and suppress people who are being successful, keep them back artificially. It has to be based on meritocracy. But the new buzzword is equity, not equality. I don't know how many of you know the difference. When they have diversity, equity, inclusion in the corporate world, DEI, which you will face when you go and get a job, there will be DI officer in the HR department, and he's enforcing DEI. The E stands for equity, not equality. Equality means equal rights and opportunities. Equity means equal outcome. So like what we call the quota system, but not only for admissions and certain government jobs, but in everything, every respect. That is a problem because it reduces meritocracy, and the countries which is running on that system will not be able to compete against another country like China, which does not have that system. Imagine if you had a cricket team in which they said there will be a quota and not the best players. Best players are not the way we select, but we have some kind of allocation of quota of identities and who's oppressed and who's oppressor, and that's how we'll allocate. The point is that it may bring about a better harmony internally if you think so, but you will lose a cricket match. You will not have the best team. If you have a military like that, you will not have the best team. If you have surgeons who are doing surgery based on this kind of allocation of surgeons, it will not be the best surgery. I would not go to such a hospital. So you see, there are certain, you have to look at whether you want to compete externally with other powers, other civilizations, and if that is the case, then you have to put your best people on merit. That is how you have to do. And the way you have to solve the problem of social justice and people not having proper rights and so on, and people not doing well, some people who've been held back, that is a different process. You have to start from childhood and give them equal opportunities and give them good coaching. Start that way. If you haven't trained them properly throughout their life, and given them that education, then later in life, artificially giving them some kind of a job means a recipe for disaster, because they will also feel out of place. So this is an issue with this whole critical race theory. But the real problem that bothered me is the way it has been applied to India. They've developed something called critical caste theory. Critical caste theory, which says that the Dalits are the blacks of India and the non-Dalits are the whites of India. And another oppressed group is the Muslims. They're also like the blacks, and the non-Muslims, the Hindus, are the oppressors. So this application of American racism to India is very dangerous, because this means that we are going to be subject to the same violence, fighting each other like the Americans have done with their racism. It is like bringing racism to us in the garb of trying to help us. That is what it is. Now, the application of this theory is being spun in Harvard. A lot of places, but Harvard is at the center. There are people like Suraj Jengde, who's a Dalit activist who's gone there. They're giving him a big job at Harvard Kennedy School, and he's become very important in promoting this idea. There is one Ajanta Subramaniam, who's written this book that IITs are a casteist enterprise, and the whole structure of IIT is anti-Dalit, and this should be dismantled. So she's into that area. And then there are people, Indians, who've done a lot of research, claim to have done surveys saying that the diaspora people, Indian diaspora people working in tech industry are casteist, and therefore they filed lawsuit against Cisco, which is a tech company, big tech company, and also now all these other tech companies like Microsoft and Facebook and Apple and all that are being told that you have to do a census of caste people in your company, and maybe there are too many oppressors, not enough oppressed, and you have to take action. So this is a very serious matter, and these companies, HR departments are beginning to incorporate these kind of policies, and these policies will come to India. They're Microsoft India and Google India, Facebook India. They have lakhs of people working in Bangalore and various places. These will become subject to such policies. And then the outsourcing, all the people that are in the outsourcing industry will also be told that you got to hire people of a certain kind and so on. So India will be the meddling of India, India's social structure and India's cleavages, tension points will be in the hands of people overseas pushing the buttons, deciding कि आपको मिलेगा, आपको नहीं मिलेगा. So this is like the British meddling in India, and this divide and rule, creating a whole empire by making us fight each other. So the point is, we have to solve our own problems. We have solutions, we have problems, but we have solutions. We are a democracy, we have legal system. But now it will be the Westerners pushing all this. This is happening in a very serious way. There are laws being passed. There's one passed in Seattle. This will be replicated in 100 other places. So this business of taking Indian society apart and creating conflict is becoming very serious. We have a Supreme Court Chief Justice who's parroting what Harvard is teaching. He's parroting. Justice Chandrachud is going on parroting all these scholars at Harvard. Whatever they're saying, he wants to bring it here. So we have been infiltrated in a deep way in India on this kind of ideology. It's already happening. Now, the thing is this. Will they also make a caste quota or some kind of minority quota for H-1B visa? There's a proposal like that it should be. I have a friend, Mohinder Gulati, in the World Bank, senior guy, and he has done an interview with me in which he's exposing that the same people who are promoting the caste quotas in the corporate world have also come to World Bank and given a 6-part workshop on caste bias in India to the World Bank in Washington. And the idea being that when World Bank gives loans to India, they should look for whether the project has got enough Dalits and Muslims or not, whether it has too many upper caste. So now World Bank is going to start putting the danda and saying, okay, we will only fund if this project has enough social diversity according to them. So what is happening is the politics of India, the society of India is going to be measured, evaluated by foreign indexes, foreign people, and then based on that they'll decide whether to fund, who gets the visa, who gets the job, and so on. And a serious problem is that we have something called ESG, environment, social justice, governance. It sounds very nice. We all believe in this. But the S part of ESG is social justice, and that social justice is DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And guess who is certifying the ESG officers and the DEI officers is foreign consultants. So you go and get a certificate from them, or they teach the course here and they give you DEI certificate, ESG certificate, according to their criteria of what is meant by social justice. It is not our idea of environmentalism. I propose that our idea of environmentalism says that the earth is sacred and the rivers are sacred. Nature is sacred. So we would give a negative rating for somebody like a McDonald's because they're slaughtering billions of animals every year. That would be a problem for us. It would be according to our ethics. But according to their ethics, the criteria is very different. The criteria for deciding who has high rating, who has low rating is decided by them. So now what has happened is the Indian corporate sector has imported these ideas, in Bombay especially. I'm going there now in a few days, tomorrow in fact, to talk to them about it. So the whole Indian industry is being taken over by this colonized thinking. The whole Indian academy is being taken over. Niti Aayog and the ministries are being taken over. Foreign consultants like these Deloitte and Arthur Andersen, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all of these sort of people, not Arthur Andersen, but PricewaterhouseCoopers, McKinsey, these sort of people, they are Ernst & Young, they are at the infiltrated inside Indian elite institutions, government included, and applying their thought process, which has been created at Harvard Kennedy School, World Economic Forum, etc. So India is being colonized. And then you take all the impact of big data, artificial intelligence. The algorithms are being trained with this logic. The algorithms are being trained with this logic to decide whether your post is a good one or a bad one and whether you should be banned or not. The criteria is not being applied by human beings. If they ban my YouTube or some post, is not some human being sitting there who made this decision. It's not Mark Zuckerberg who said, oh, ye galat hai. It is algorithms. They have no time. It will take billions of people to do it manually. So it is algorithms doing it, but somebody has trained these algorithms. And these algorithms have been trained on certain ideologies, certain kind of databases. These databases are not always fair. There are biases in the databases. So this is a very serious problem that has been uncovered in Snakes in the Ganga. And the interesting thing is that these institutions in Harvard, some of them are funded by Indian billionaires. There is a Mahindra Humanities Center at Harvard, whose director is a well-known critic of Hindu civilization, India as a nation state, calling it a sham democracy. Then there is the Lakshmi Mittal and Family Institute for South Asia Studies at Harvard, very powerful. Lakshmi Mittal gave $50 million a few years ago and keep funding it more. And Bajaj has joined in, Azim Premji is involved in these kind of things. Tata's is involved. So there are, Ajay Piramal is involved in Harvard in funding. So now you see the billionaires are doing it. Why are they doing it? Over here they're Desh Bhakt, but over there they're doing this. And so we are pointing it out to tell them, listen, people will put pressure on you. Either you declare openly that you support all these movements against India, which they don't want to, or you stop doing it. But they're doing it because they get good business deal, maybe. Maybe they get their kids in Harvard, maybe. Maybe it just looks very good and show off that, hey, I'm a big shot, and when I go to Harvard, because I've given them tens of millions of dollars, they're going to look after me and I'll have a good selfies and good photo ops and so on. Maybe it's just for that. Or maybe they're ideologically convinced of that point of view. I don't know. We cannot be sure. So that's what we've written this book for. And then all of these ideologies come to India. Places like Ashoka University, full of this. Ashoka University has a Trivedi Center, which is in collaboration with the French Ministry of External Affairs to track data on Indian politics from the panchayat level to the central government, state, municipality, every level. They're tracking every election since independence, built the only database of its kind. That is looking at what is the psychology, what is the cultural background, what is the religion of the different people, what is the economic strata, all of that, how it decides the election going this way, that way, what are the push buttons you can push to shift the election, swing the election in one way or the other, whom to influence, what kind of memes and narratives will work. So this is very dangerous. So then there is Kriya University in the south, there is Godrej Cultural Labs, there is Azim Premji. So this is the India has also been infiltrated by this ideology. So I will stop because this is a very big topic, and I want you to know that the size of the book should not scare you, because if you read chapter 1, it is if you read the introduction chapter, it is a 50 page. That gives you summary of the whole thing. And then the other 22 chapters have a summary, 1 page summary at the beginning, overview. So if you read the introduction chapter and 1 page summary, in less than 100 pages, you will get the idea of the whole thing. Rest of the pages are backup, proof, evidence, quotations, references. So if you know the overall thesis, you can confidently go and argue it, represent it, talk about it. And wherever somebody challenges you, you need more data, you go to there and read the rest of that chapter. So that is how it is written. For initially, you need to read 100 pages to understand, and you can start arguing these things. And then as you have time and interest to go deeper, you can go into any chapter in any sequence you can read. So you don't have to read the whole thing cover to cover. It's designed in that way. I will stop and would love to exchange ideas with you guys. Thank you very much.